Hello and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is the podcast where we speak to mavericks across the comedy world. Now, today's guest shaped the career and helped build the career of the fantastic Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., and dare I say it, the fantastic Whitney Cummings. It's none other than the brilliant, the mesmerizing, the god of comedy, Barry Katz.
Holy shitbirds. I can't believe I made the cut. That's amazing that I'm actually all of those things. I wish I was. Could I just be one out of three of them? Maybe a quarter of the three out of them. Maybe I could. That'd be probably good.
So I'll call you the god of comedy.
There's a lot of. What's weird is that permission to speak freely to you and your audience. One of the most challenging things about this business is, when you're a manager and you also decide in your lifetime to do more things than just that center around the world and are really important. And I'd say, without you even asking me, when you introduced me that way, I think to myself, like, I can't control what you say, whether you introduce me as the worst person in the world or the best or anywhere in between. I just have no control over that. I could certainly, before the interview starts, say, hey, don't do this, don't do that. But I don't know what anybody's going to say, and I don't want to constrict anybody. And I think that's one of the crazy things about my business. That's probably one of my greatest strengths and one of my greatest weaknesses, is that I really love to be involved in everything. I love the enjoyment of that. I love talking to you on this. We haven't even talked yet, but I love trying to make some kind of a difference to any artist in this crazy fucked up industry. And but when you do that, you leave yourself open to great things. But like anybody listening, you leave yourself open to things that can come from nowhere and change your life forever, in a good way or a bad way. And some days you'll work on something with somebody and it'll be the best case scenario. You could go 99 times where you work with somebody and it's the best case scenario. But there's always going to be that one time where you don't have the tools in your emotional toolbox. They don't have the tools in theirs. And for some reason, even though the evidence suggests that you're wonderful and you've done this and you've done that and your last project was this and these people say this about you, if one person out there doesn't have a great experience and you don't have a great experience, then you haven't learned all that you have to learn in this lifetime. And you have to look in the mirror and say, okay, what's my part? What's their part? And how do I come clean in this situation if I can? And how do they come clean? How do we find a resolution where we move forward in the future? And how do I get better? And, it's not up to me, because I'm not with that other person, to figure out how they can be better and how things could have been different. But as long as I can self-analyze and I can look within what I'm doing, I think it's great. So I'm honored that you say such nice things about me. But I also am realistic that for every how many people, insert number here, there's one person that would listen to it and say, oh, great, call him that, say that, that'll just make him be more of that person and holier than thou and this and that. So I guess my words of wisdom to everybody here listening is that Paul Rodriguez, I interviewed him a long time ago, really great comedian, legendary. And he said this as he was actually crying on the interview, which was so vulnerable. He said, don't let anybody piss on your grave. Don't let anybody piss on your dreams. And it goes from the dreams from when you're a little kid all the way to your grave. And, it's just, you have these dreams. Everybody has these dreams. Everybody has aspirations. And you have to learn how to, what was it, Mike Tyson? Was he the one who said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face? But the important thing as an artist and as a manager or anything is that I truly believe when Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas, if there hadn't been rules to boxing in terms of how long you have to get up, I truly believe that he would have gotten up and kept fighting. And if he got knocked out, he would have gotten up again and kept fighting, because his singular goal was to eliminate his opponent. And as a manager and an artist, or anybody in this business, there's a lot of forces that are fighting against you. You're like a fish swimming uphill, and you can't let the obstacles take you down. You have to embrace those obstacles, let them beat the shit out of you, and just keep going forward with what you believe in and what you know is the best course of action. And then if you do that, your life will change forever.
Who are comedians during all your time in comedy that are a perfect example of this? Are there any comedians that you saw when they first started and you're like, oh, they're not good, but then you see them like maybe a week later or a year later and you're like, oh my God, you are amazing. And they were struggling, but they really made it. Like no one believed in them, but now they are where they are now.
Oh, I mean, just so you know, and your audience knows, is like very few people don't struggle. I mean, that's just, I mean, if you don't struggle, then I mean, what, I just don't understand. Like, what is there if you don't struggle? When you think about it, like, how can you get to where you want to go? It's like, I'll mention some names, but I'll share something with you. Like, for those of you out there, remember the movie A Star Is Born, the last one with Bradley Cooper. So there's a scene, I'm probably paraphrasing, but he's drunk, he's high, he's probably on heroin, he's at a piano, it's like 4 a.m. You're just watching him, he's got the raspy voice, and he's just, tell me something, girl. And then Lady Gaga comes over and says, what are you doing? Oh, he's like, I just wrote this little ditty down. I'm just working it out now at the piano. Oh, let me hear some more. And then he plays some more. Cut to like 2 weeks later, he's in front of 80,000 people, and he's doing the song, the exact way he played it, every note, every word is the same. And he's fucking killer. Okay? If you're a comedian out there, if you ever write a bit word for word and say it the first time exactly the same, and then you do that for the rest of your life with that bit, that would be a fucking miracle. Because comedians, they have to work out and become better in front of drunk strangers. That's what you have to do. And you have to use your audience as your writing partner. And it's really challenging because you almost have to be a psychic and figure out, okay, did this work here because this crowd was a little more drunk than the last crowd? You'll see Seinfeld with his, with his yellow legal pad, a huge legal pad, and he'll just be, or even people like who were in the movie Comedian that I was fortunate to be in, who they'll be, okay, the word and, how about with? Will with work there? What if I change that word from school to university? Will that be better? And they're just constantly honing and working out. And then after they do that, they have to, and your audience as well, you have to self-direct. So you have to think, okay, when I did this with my hand, was that a good thing? Was that a bad? So when you watch somebody, let's say like Brian Regan, who I've known my whole life, and you watch the way he does a routine and the way he moves, or let's say another physical comedian in the United States now, like Sebastian, you can see there's a practice point to how not only the material is working, but how he's moving, where he's standing. Is he leaning over? Is he up? Is he looking strangely? Like, I just did Jay Moore's first special in a long time since he got sober for 5 years. It was called Packing for Rehab. And it's amazing how because, he's a trained actor. He's worked with, like, I think 13 Academy Award winning actors in movies. As a matter of fact, in this bit, he says one of his lines is, he says, you can kind of tell when the drugs took hold of me if you just look at my IMDb page. I'm working for 15, 20 years with like Tom Cruise and Ellen Burstyn and, Al Pacino and all these incredible Clint Eastwood. And then he says there's kind of, let's say, what you would call a gap. And I'm doing talking dog movies. And I'm not even the lead talking dog. I'm like the 20th dog on the call sheet. I'm like the receptionist at Chewy Vuitton, and the way he does it, when I watched him and I observed him, even the timing, even of just saying, like, you can kind of, just the intonation, tell when the drugs took hold of me. You look at my IMDb page, there's what you would call a gap, so if I were to say the words, or if anybody listening were just to say the words, it's not funny. It's not as funny unless you take it a certain way. And I'm just going to go back to your question in a second, because I wanted to talk about somebody I started with, Dana Gould, who went into writing and became a writer on The Simpsons. But I was watching a clip of his the other day, and I just want to share this for your audience, because he's not focused solely on comedy. You make a shitload of money as a writer. So, but this one 30-second piece just, I think, sums it all up for anybody listening in terms of what do you want to do? Well, for the most part, most comedians, they're going to get their best shot at a greatness in comedy if they talk about real life. 98 out of 100 times, that's going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong. Stephen Wright was the first comedian I ever saw in my life. I used to book him. I love him. I have the oldest typewriter in the world. It types in pencil. No, you don't. I went to a cafe. It said breakfast anytime. So I ordered French toast during the Renaissance. Unlikely. I just got robbed. The robber replaced everything in my house with an exact replica. I went to my roommate. I said, listen, what happened here? He said, do I know you? That didn't happen. But it's unbelievably, incredibly funny. Rodney Dangerfield. I'm an ugly kid. My dad used to tie a pork chop around my neck to get the dog to play with me. No, he didn't. My wife's a bad cook. I don't think meatloaf should glow in the dark. No, it doesn't. She's so bad the flies pitched in to buy a new screen door. No, they didn't. But one of those 2% that's fucking amazing. There's no question about it. But for the most part, you want to be based in reality, and you want to have your premises be as highly original as humanly possible, so that when you talk about the thing you're about to talk about, you realize that there's very few people who talk about that. And then your take on it is like very few people talk about it. But it's based in reality. So here's Dana Gould's line. And I'm paraphrasing. I'm so sorry. The subject is Charlie Manson. Now, I'll ask you in your audience, how many people have you seen do a Charlie Manson bit? Very few, if any. But yet, he's an unbelievably well-known public figure who killed a lot of people and was a cult leader. For some reason, not a subject people talk about. Maybe because it's long ago, maybe whatever it is. I remember Dennis Miller did a routine on JFK. And he said he went to the Book Depository Museum in Dallas, and he said it was very realistic because Lee Harvey Oswald still wasn't there. And again, a very original premise, even though it was a public figure event and the greatest murder in the world that is unsolved. And the fact that evidence suggests that the guy wasn't there. So Dana Gould's joke. So Charlie Manson was in jail for a long time until he died, and women loved him. They would write to him. They would visit him. They would want to have conjugal visits with him. They would want to have, they just, woman after woman. This guy's a murderer. They wanted him badly. So that's the first part of the premise. Second part of the premise, which is rare to have a premise that has more than one thing. Dana says, and towards the end of his life, a woman asked him to marry her, which is true. That's the second part of the premise. Third part of the premise, which is true. And he said no. And here's the modern day philosophy punchline that's true. How Dana delivers it, I think. Imagine that. A guy serving 5 consecutive life sentences and he still wants his freedom. So when you look at that joke and that premise, it may not get a standing ovation. It may not get a wild applause break. But I guarantee you, if you're a stand-up comedian, again, Dana has been writing on The Simpsons for over a quarter of a century, so but if that's your focus and you're creating original premises like that and original punchlines, there's no way you can do a joke like that in your act and have a comedian come up to you and say, "You're a hack." That's like an airline bid. If they did, and 1 out of 100 probably would, as I mentioned earlier, who cares? I mean, it's just incredible, and I think that's the thing that separates certain comedians from the pack, and I know what some people would say. Well, there's been some huge comedians that make it really big who are less great premises, less great punchlines, more entertainers. More great entertainers. They don't have the wordsmanship, but they're so great at keeping a crowd engaged. And yes, like I said, there's 2, 3, maybe 5% like that. And if that's your path and that's what's calling to you, fantastic. But just know whenever you do anything, always know the odds. And this is the last thing I'll say about this. Always look at the odds and be accepting of the odds of whatever you do. It's already a long shot to do comedy or make a living or be successful in the comedy business. It's already a big long shot. And so every time you make a decision, you have to put as many balls in the lottery hopper as possible to make sure that you have the best shot of your kernel popping. And if you do decide to go a different way, and many people have, look at Steve Martin in the beginning. I mean, he had an arrow through his head. If he came out today, I don't know if people would embrace him as much. But that's just so it's okay as long as you know what the path is to success and where the best path is for you. If I'm going skydiving with you, and we go to a field and there's 2 guys waiting by the plane and I say, who's that guy on the right? Oh, that's Joe. He's done 10,000 successful jumps, packed the parachute 10,000 times. He's the godfather. He's the best. Oh, great. And who's the guy on the right? That's Sam. He's been training under the other guy, but this is his first jump and the first time he packed the parachute. You're going with that guy. The fuck I am. I'm not going with that guy because I know that the odds are better with the other guy. He's 10,000 for 10,000. Now, like I said from the beginning of the podcast, there's always going to be one person who's going to say, yeah, but he's bound to fuck up. But why doesn't he? Why doesn't he? Why does I do a lot of consulting work. I talk to comedians from all over the world. I have this blueprint program where I have 1,000 people in the community and do that, separately. And I talked to so many people, and there was this airline pilot who was a comedian. And it was fascinating. I was talking about how his comedy was going, and he said, "It's inconsistent. I can't get a bunch of them in a row to kill." I said, "What did you do before this?" He said, "I was an airline pilot. I flew 747s." I said, "How many flights did you fly?" He said, 3,000. And he leaned over. It was fucking amazing. He leaned over and he said, 3,000 for 3,000. And I thought to myself, I don't I don't know anybody 3,000 for 3,000. I'm certainly I don't even know if I get to be 100 for 100 sometimes. And so why was he 3,000 for 3,000? He was 3,000 for 3,000 because if he wasn't, he'd be dead. And his crew and his people on the plane would be dead and people on the ground would be dead. And I think that's the thing about comedy. There's no sense of urgency for a lot of people. I'm not saying you gotta pretend you're gonna die, but I'm just saying that people tend to go on like it's just practice every time, which it is, but imagine going on every time where it's like you're doing an audition for your career. And if you succeed, you get to continue. And if you fail, you don't get to keep doing stand up anymore. Now, you're going to fail sometimes, but I'm just saying that people don't think that way. People don't think, remember I mentioned the Star is Born. People don't think about their hit record. Their hit record. Their 5 minutes that blows people the fuck away. Their Jim Jeffries, gun control bit, their Chappelle crack baby, their Carlin 7 words you can't say on television, Ellen DeGeneres conversations with God, Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks, the 2,000-year-old man, Bob Newhart, the button-down mind, Rodney Dangerfield. Oh, I got to tell you, I don't get no respect at all. People don't work on that hit song. They work on trying to be better, trying to get more time. Oh, God, if I get more time, I can feature. If I get more time, I'll be able to feature, you know? And that's the thing that I think it's just you're always trying so hard, so fast to get where you want to go so you can be like Mo Gilligan or what's her name, Maisie Adam or whatever. You're kind of looking to like, oh God, I gotta get there. I gotta get there. And you forget when you're renovating your house that, you know, why don't you start with the fucking bathroom first? Get the bathroom right and then move on to the kitchen. Anyway, I'll shut up and let you talk.
Well, you're saying get the foundation right on a comedy journey, and you said also, I don't know what you're some of the bit you said reminded me of the Hunger Games, like where may the odds be in your favor or something. That's like
Yeah,
you're
and you gotta treat I mean, I know it sounds, totally, it's horrible to think, I'm just realizing I'm drinking English breakfast tea. My favorite tea is English breakfast tea. So
good.
so now I feel like I'm here. Um, yeah, it's like you're how do I say it the best way? Look, um, the comedians who are stand-up comedians who are watching today, okay? You go to a club, right? You go to some kind of a comedy club showcase. Let's say it's just a showcase show where there's I don't know how many people are normally on a showcase show, like on a Wednesday night somewhere at John Glaire's or wherever you at a comedy store. What is it? 8 people, 10 people? How many people?
Less.
On a
That's
on a
fortunate.
on just a showcase night, a night where just people are just going on, not like a headliner night. How many
I
people
mean, in terms of
how many
an
com
open mic,
comedians go on, like, on a just like an off night, not a weekend, just like an off night? How many go on?
are you talking about a pro night or an open mic? Or like a
And either you could take either one, like, let's say a pro night on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday or an open mic night. How many people are on each one?
in a pro night, probably around, I think a maximum of, if you're including the host, probably a maximum around 7, because you're going to have like an opener, middle, and then you're going to have another one in the open in the second half, and then you have a closer, but you have 2 open spots in between, and you have a host.
Right.
An open mic night, some places 20 or 30, but
Right.
in a good
Right.
one, 12.
Right. Let's just take this, okay? Let's say there's a pro night where it's not set up like that. It's just a host and 10 comics doing 10 minutes, or an open mic night, whatever, where there's more or whatever. But let's just stick with the 10 comics doing 10 minutes, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
All right. I'm gonna I'm gonna exclude the host on this one, even though I would love the host to be involved, but he's sort of in an unfair advantage because he can take over the show and he can do much more and become the best person on the show much easily because he has an unfair advantage to be able to do more time. But he also has an unfair advantage where, if the club owner or whatever says just bring him up, you know, whatever. So let's just presume there's 10, okay? And all 10 know each other. They've seen each other in the comedy scene. They're just coming in, okay? And they know the club owners watching and, might be judging them for the future. They know that the audience is judging them, whatever. And they don't know when they're going to go on, until they get there. Probably one could be going on first, one could be going on 10th, 7th, whatever. So when you get to the green room, what happens when the comedians get to the green room and they see each other? What do?
Talk shit with each other, gossip,
That's
banter.
that's right. They talk shit, they fuck around, they insult each other sometimes. They say how you doing, they say have a good set. Afterwards they'll say nice set, right? I mean, it's like most of the time, right? Right. Okay. So now let's take those 10 comedians, if you will, and let's do a little exercise. Let's pretend that we take them all in separate rooms before the show and we ask them this question. Would you like to be the unanimous best comedian on the show, the 10th best, the 5th best, the 7th best, the 3rd best? Which one would you want to be tonight? Now, tell me what every comedian in their separate room is going to say.
I think most people would want to be the funniest on the night.
That's right. Okay. But at the end of the night, if you were to facilitate a analysis of the night and you were to have every audience member, every server, every bartender, every bouncer, every manager that's there, like I said, every member of the audience, the comedians that were on, all of them, and they're asked to rate the comedians the funniest, give them all a number that can't be different. Okay? And at the end of the night, when you tabulate it up, hypothetically, there's one person who's number one and all the way down to one person who's number 10. And the issue is that no one wants to be number 10, but every night there's one person that is. No one wants to be number 7, but every night there's somebody who is. Nobody wants to be number 2, but every night there's somebody that is. And everybody wants to be number 1, and every night there's one person who is. And when they are, the legend grows. And it adds more life, more excitement, more gravitas to their career every time they can do that. And that's how people become so huge, you know. That's how somebody like Chris McCausland? You know, somebody like that, like, can rise, like, you know, it's seemingly like when you turn around and he's not having the best set every night, and then all of a sudden he is. And so I think that these are the things that you have to look at when you're an artist. You have to look at it like it's Squid Game and the Hunger Games, and you have to look at it like that's what it is. You have to look at it like Mike Tyson. I'm walking in, and my job is to eliminate the competition. And it may not happen every time, but it's really, really something that's important to mentally get yourself in a place where you're training for when the lights are brightest and when all the attention is on you, that you know that you're going to go in and you're going to deliver. You're going to fuck people up. And I think that's one of the most important things. It's an unspoken thing. It's not something that you want to walk into the green room and say, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to fuck you up." No, but it's a strategic thing. You're building your legend, and every legend starts somewhere. And then even tougher, and every comedian in England and the United States and all around the world will tell you. Then you get there and you're trying to stay there. You're trying to stay there with people trying to take you down. And they might not be trying to take you down that way, but they're trying to build themselves up so they get more attention now than you do. And now, instead of working these big arenas, or you're working 3,000 seat theaters, and then after 3,000 theaters, 15 seaters, 1,000 comedy clubs. It normally can't last forever. You can't, it's really hard to keep your audience forever, because what's happening is every day, and you see it in social media, um, technically, numerically, and algorithm wise, it's just the way it is. It doesn't matter who you are listening, even if you're not a comedian. If you were to analyze, let's say, your Instagram page, you'd be like, "Oh, wow, I gained 1,000 people this month," or whatever it is. And then you look at the algorithm and it shows, "Oh, I gained 1,300 people. I lost 300." It always shows you how many you lost and how many you gained. And it's a metaphor for the way life works in this career. You lose fans and you gain fans, and your goal is to at least keep gaining more than you lost. People wanting to come see you more than not see you. And I think that's really interesting when you think about it. And then people, I mean, it sounds awful, but Father Time is undefeated. And sometimes your fans, die, and you have to find newer fans, younger fans. There's fans of Jerry Seinfeld who, I don't know if Jerry's 70 or older or whatever, but there's fans of his that have died, and so he doesn't have to do anything. I mean, Jerry doesn't have to do anything. I mean, but if he wants to keep going and performing for great audiences, he will want to find people who've never discovered him before and get them excited about him. And you look at somebody like Andy Huggins, who I work with. This guy's 75. I think he's 75, 76 years old. He'll probably kill me for saying this, but the guy's been living in a studio apartment in Houston for like 42 years. The guy hasn't headlined anywhere, can't, really does one viral video on Don't Tell Comedy that gets, God knows, a cajillion views. And then he starts making more money than he's ever made in his entire lifetime. He's like, and he's headlining all over the place, and people are coming in droves, and young people and old people. He's 75, but it just shows you, like, you never know when your time is going to come. So you have to train for that time, because you don't know if it's going to come 42 years from now or 42 days from now. But when it comes, you better fucking be ready. Remember the stories and legendary stories about the basketball player Larry Bird? He could be in a game that was triple overtime that he won with a last second shot. Did he dress and go home? No. He went out to the court when everybody was gone and at the free throw line. And he wouldn't allow himself to go home until he hit 100 in a row. Okay? So if he clanged number 99, he would start over again. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. That's why. Yes, Allen Iverson is in the Hall of Fame. And if Allen Iverson were sitting here with me, I think he would say that maybe he wasn't as focused or worked as hard as Larry Bird. Still in the Hall of Fame. Again, remember those odds that I said? You can still make it happen. Shit happens. But you want to put as many balls in that lottery thing as possible. And if you do, you'll have a chance to change your life and change the world.
Yeah, I think Andy Huggins is a perfect example. I mean, who he is now. It's incredible what he's got now. He's a great example of that.
Yeah, and and he's a one-liner guy. His comedy is based in reality. Like, there's jokes like the great part about dating when you're my age is you don't have to meet the girl's parents. It's funny and it's true. And so it's like, now when he says a line like, I just paid off my student loans, it may not be true, but it could be true.
Yeah.
When he says, I started, when he gets to the mic for the first time and he says, I started walking to the stage 20 minutes ago. It could be true. It may not be true, but it could be true.
Have you known him for a long time as well, or did you only know him recently?
I I was doing this blueprint program where, like I said, people from all over the world, they come into this industry, blueprint, to all different levels. And there was a guy from Houston who came in. He was a comedian. He was an actor, and he wanted to be a manager. And I worked with him on deals and helped him figure things out. And the first client he wanted to manage was Andy Huggins. And so I helped him with that. Andy did a special. I helped them with that. And then they sold a special. I helped them with that, although I advised him not to sell it to the people that he did, but he did anyway. But that's okay. Um, and um, and then about 6 months later, a year later, he said to me, "Hey, like, do you want to manage Andy with me?" And even though I don't co-manage anybody with anything, I just thought, I love this fucking guy, and I don't care. I wanna help this guy win, and so I did.
Is that something that you look at when you're helping people? Like you have to, when you're looking for people to help along the way, they have to not be a dickhead. or what's your thing? Do you have to
Well,
feel like when you're deciding to
it's
help
interest
someone in their career?
oh, it's interesting you said that. Look, if we use the 1 in 100 rule that we used on this interview, there's gonna be somebody who's the nicest person in your life and the person that's the 100th nicest. You all know who the person in your life is who you don't think is nice, and you all know the person in your life that is. Y'all know who has the potential to snap and who doesn't. Um, I've represented people for 25 years, 17 years, 14 years, 10, 8. Um, and I've had so many exciting times. I've been hired and fired um, a number of times. Um, and the thing about this business is that I need to always figure out how to audition today to get tomorrow. And I think when I stop working with somebody, it saddens me and it's disappointing. When you work with Chappelle for 9 years and then you don't anymore, or you work with Dane Cook for 17 years and you don't anymore. But let's say you work with Jay Moore for 30 years and you're like, okay, but you don't know, you're always self-analyzing because it's like marriages, they don't last always, all of them forever, but you want them to. You want to try to figure out what you're doing right or wrong, but you're a 10 percenter. They're the 90% of the company, and you're servicing them, and they're in control, and you're helping them as best you can to be great. And that's what I always like to do, but and that's what I always want to do. But some days it ends, and if you hold grudges and you're angry and you're going nowhere. But if you're grateful for what you had, what you did, how you did it, and everybody looks at that person's career and says, "Hey, he's not working with them anymore, but I think he I think he knows talent. I think the evidence will show that he sees something in people." And I do. But just because somebody is a great talent doesn't mean they're a great person or perceived as a great person. I mean, I don't think Hitler looked in the mirror and said, I'm a bad person." Uh, you know, he might have said, "I'm going to create a mustache that no one else will use ever again." I don't know, but the the point is that people don't look in the mirror and say, I'm a bad person. Nobody rarely looks in the mirror and says, I'm wrong. Um,
What?
so, wait, I just want to share, like, I have probably like about 5 more minutes. So you can,
No worries.
if you want to just ask me anything that you haven't asked me or whatever,
No.
or I'll do whatever I can to answer it without screwing it up.
So, what's if yeah, what would be your biggest advice to a comedian to if they've been doing it for 5 years and they want to change their career around? And what would be your biggest advice to a new comic?
Well, for the new comic, listen to this podcast because it has everything that you need in there. For a 5-year comic, it has the same. You have to take yourself out of your body and look at the evidence. Well, what's your social media numbers? Well, I really didn't get involved in that in the beginning, and I don't want to burn my material and this and that. Meanwhile, another person is passing you like a rocket ship because they're posting every day. And then that person is being passed like a rocket ship because another person is posting 3 times a day. And they're finding the balance. They're finding the hooks. They're finding what they have to do. And stand up, hey, I'm killing. I got a standing ovation with that bit where I do the lap dance and the person comes out of the crowd and I dance for them. Yet, why is that person passing me who does the, intricate, unique piece on landscaping? Well, because they're doing something that's so unbelievably unique that there's, it's not about dancing around. And well, how can I do this great story on when I'm drunk and I throw up on those people and it's fucking unbelievable. It kills every time. Why is that guy passing me? Well, he's passing you because he has that incredible bit on the abbreviations of the American states. Gary Gulman. Yeah, but I watched that and it was great, but I mean, it wasn't killing like my bit where I got drunk and threw up on people. Yeah, you're right. But your joke involves throwing up, which is an easy laugh. Your joke involves moisture humor, whether it's coming, pissing, shitting, menstruation. It's just easy. And you got to get out of the easy and into the not easy. And I guarantee anybody who's listening, if you go through all your material and look at the premises that nobody does, if you have them, and maybe you only have 5 minutes of them, and then you write them down on paper, where you analyze your premises and your punchlines, and you pretend to yourself like you're giving this 5-minute set to 100 writers of talk shows all across the world, 100 great comedians across the world, and you just are giving them only your premises, not your punchlines. And you're asking each one of them to write 3 punchlines to it. You're visualizing this. So now you have 300 punchlines that have been written. Let's pretend that many people come up with the same joke, but there's 100 different ones. If you get up every morning with a sense of urgency and purpose, and just put your premise on the page and look at the joke that you've written and really say to yourself, using the 100 rule, is that a 0, absolutely not funny, or is that 100, the funniest it can possibly be? The answer is probably most often going to be it's not the funniest it can be. But imagine if you had 100 different people looking at it without you there, just the premise and what they would write. And you sit there each morning and you write for them. I remember I interviewed Judd Apatow. Love that guy. What he does. And his first job, I think one of his first jobs was writing for Gary Shandling. And he wrote all the stuff for Gary, and Gary took him on the road. I think it was to Arizona or something. They do the first show, and Gary does a ton of Judd's premises that he wrote. None of the punchlines. And Judd is completely dejected and completely depressed, and he is leaving the venue, and he says, "Listen, I'm going, Gary. I don't want to do this anymore." He said, "What are you talking about? You're fantastic. I used like so many of your premises." He says, "Well, you didn't use any of my jokes." And Gary, and again, I'm paraphrasing, said to Judd, "Judd, the premises are the most important things. Once I have an original great premise, it's like I can write jokes for that all day long, but I can't always get that great premise." And that's what it is when Jim Jeffries does the premise, of the gun control bit. It's just simply the premise of the concept of gun control, pro-gun and whatever, not pro-gun or the right to bear, and his analysis through his lens. But it's every line. And when Chris Rock does the routine, black people and the N-word, it's like a 9.5-minute bit. And every single piece is like just worked out. It's just so fucking incredible in front of a black audience. And that's what it takes. You've got a lot of competition out there. I know you hate to admit it, but if you're a 5-year veteran or whatever, 5 years doing it, out of everybody in your circle, again, if everybody voted and said, okay, who's number 1 after 5 years of doing comedy? And who's number 100? Where are you? And even if you are number 1, you gotta work to stay on top of that mountain, because there's people watching you. They see what you're doing great, and they're studying it, they're imitating it, and they're doing it. So then now you have to figure out different ways to be great. That's why working with Dane Cook in the beginning was so amazing. 17 years. It's like this guy, we worked on social media for the first time for an artist. I'm there. I'm doing it. It's like, I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. What is this? What the fuck is going on? This guy's pressing a button and selling out Madison Square Garden, Boston Garden, not once, but twice in one night, just by going like this. No promoter not needed. No ads needed. No nothing. Just like a code for his fans. Not even regular fans that got to buy the tickets. His fans. It's crazy. But then what happens? Oh shit, that social media works. Let's get on that. And now, 15 years later, every comedian, 20 years later, every comedian's on social media. And so what can he? Nothing he can do about it. So throughout his career, now he's got to figure out how to do other things to get attention and to catch lightning in a bottle, to get to where he wants to go and stay. Because
Yeah.
everybody's always looking at what you do. You know, if you're a guy who builds pools in backyards, you're going to do your best job. You're going to make a video of it, just like I'm suggesting all of the comedians here get their hit song together and make sure that you record it with one camera, head to toe or head to waist, like it's a talk show, no cuts, so people know, hey, I did it. This is it, your calling card for every festival, every place, that no one can deny it. Just like the pool guy who built the pool in the mansion. He's got the video. He shows it to the next customer. Wow, that looks pretty nice. I want to hire you. That's what business is. That's what business is. You're in a frame shop. You don't walk into a frame shop and there's no frames on the wall of different kinds and intonations. They're all different ones on the walls, and you look around and you're like, oh, I'd like that frame. I'd like that matting. I'd like that glass. I'd like the way you set it out like that. That's what that's what business is all about. You make hoodies. How do you get more business? You make a fucking great original hoodie and then you show it to people and they order more. That's the way it works. And so if you do that and figure that out, you're going to rise. You're going to rise really, really strongly because people are going to take notice. They're going to be like, what the hell happened to Marvin? I mean, he was just a regular comic. And now it's like he's fucking killing. Every time he goes in, he's got a sense of purpose. And it's like, what the fuck? I mean, it's like, it's hard enough in this business. I got to deal with fucking Marvin now with the changing the way he's doing things. And that's the way it is. And so that's my advice. And if anybody needs to reach me, you can, I guess, reach me at Barry Katz on Instagram or on my website at barrykatz.com. And you can check out anything. You check out the Industry Blueprint if you want to get some secret weapon advice or somebody in your corner who can help you get to the next level. I'm here for you. Or if you just want to say hello, that's cool. I'm grateful for this interview. I'm sorry I talked so much, and but thank you so much. It was an honor to be here.
So good. And also, you can also listen to Barry's podcast of
Industry standard.
Industry Standard.
On
He had my hero, Bobby Lee. He had the favorite Bill Burr. So yeah, watch his podcast, The Industry Standard. Next guest I'm going to have is going to be Eric O'Shea. And then I'm going to have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and comedian on the podcast.